Hello and welcome to Sewing with Threads, the monthly podcast with the staff of Threads magazine. Today I'm joined by Janine Clegg, who's our managing editor for production. Hello, Janine.
Hi, Carol. Hi, ChaCha.
And our guest today is ChaCha Hudson. ChaCha Nicole Hudson is a professor of fashion design at Syracuse University. She teaches courses in fashion product development, including apparel construction, pattern making, draping, and she lectures on entrepreneurship in fashion and design inclusivity. ChaCha's research focuses on business innovation in fashion and improving apparel fit for plus-size consumers. She earned her bachelor's degree in fashion design and master's degree in fashion and apparel studies. Before joining Syracuse University, ChaCha was a professor at the University of Delaware, an instructor at Moore College of Art and Design in Philadelphia, and visiting professor at MBA Mode Institute and Chartres Fashion School, both in Ghana. ChaCha is the owner of the Social Cafe LLC in Philadelphia, which is now closed, but we'll talk a little bit more about that later, I hope, ChaCha. It was a creative co-working space for female fashion designers and crafters, encouraging entrepreneurship and innovation. She's also the designer of the plus-size clothing line, Ace Blakely. So for anybody who'd like to get to know ChaCha a little bit more, in the show notes, there will be a link to the 5 speedy sewing questions where she gives us a little bit about her background in sewing and how she got to where she is today from being a little girl who wanted to learn how to sew. So that's actually fun and interesting. I recommend that you take a little listen there. But for this podcast, we're going to talk a little bit more about all the different things that ChaCha does. So I'd love to start first by hearing a little bit about the program you're involved with at Syracuse called Fashion Without Limits. Can you describe that for us a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So Fashion Without Limits has been going on since 2013. It was established in 2013 by the first ever plus size supermodel. Her name is Supermodel Emmy. That's the name she goes by, as well as 2 of my colleagues, Todd Conover and Jeffrey Mayer. And the whole premise of Fashion Without Limits is to expose students from their freshman year to their senior year to the world of fashion, a well-rounded education for the world of fashion. So from sizes 0 to right now, the biggest form that we have is a size 24. But when people hear about Fashion Without Limits, they're thinking, okay, it's only plus size. And that's not it at all, because people come in all different shapes, no matter their size. So we're trying to help our students learn that they can design for all different sizes, all different shapes, and that it will be beneficial to their career and their portfolio to do so.
I really love the idea of this. And I had talked a little bit about it with Jeffrey Mayer 2 or 3 years ago. And when we got back to him recently to talk a little bit more, he said, oh, you need to speak to ChaCha because she's working on that now. So we're really excited to have you here and tell us about this. I had a few questions because, yes, we do sort of think this is to expand the size range in the upper end. But you're saying it's really more to just kind of encompass all the sizes and shapes, not just plus size. And I really think that's important. But the question I have for you is, once you've trained your students to do this and they've embraced it, is the manufacturing industry also embracing the wider range of sizes? Do you think that they will learn that they really need to produce garments for more people?
Absolutely. My thought is that it always starts in school. If students leave school and they haven't learned how to design for a lot of different body types, they're going to think that it's not important. And when you think something is not important, then you don't pursue that thing or you don't think that it's valuable. So working with the students now and them leaving school knowing, okay, there's so many different body types out there. There's so many different women and men and children that I can design for. They may go out and start their own business if they don't see not necessarily a market for it, but if they don't see that people presently aren't offering those things, if designers are not offering those things, that's where innovation comes in, because then the students are trying to solve problems. They go out in the world and they solve these problems. They start businesses within businesses that they're hired at. They may be the ones in the boardroom saying, okay, we need to expand our sizes, or we need to cater to more people to increase sales, or to make sure that they're hitting different demographics, or they're adding to that conversation of improving the fashion industry altogether. It still bothers me, and I don't know why. People are not getting into making clothes for other body types. One thing now that I've decided to no longer be bothered by is the already established brands not including plus sizes into their line, because it's kind of like, or at least from what I see from other bloggers and designers, and even consumers, you're kind of begging these companies to offer clothes to you. You're kind of begging them to accept your money. So instead, what I decide to focus on are the companies that are actually including other sizes within their range, that are catering to um, larger bodies, that are catering to people who may have an apple shape or a rectangle shape or an hourglass shape, or um, anything like that. Those who are really diverse and not just speak about being diverse, but are actually implementing that within their business.
Do you find that it's more smaller businesses that are more sensitive to this or that are paying attention to it now, ones that are trying to grow, or are the mainstream ones the ones that are starting to come around now?
The smaller businesses, I think that they got it a long time ago. Um, but they don't have to go through a huge supply chain. They're able to do things in house. Like for my company, Ace Blakely, when I started, um, there were like one off pieces, or there were, you know, just small quantities. And I never really wanted to be in a lot of stores and create a big carbon footprint, because I was really into M. I'm into sustainability, and making sure that I'm not being wasteful. So that's one of the reasons why I decided to keep production small. But then also, you can do a lot being a small business, where you can do a lot of fittings and you can make a lot of mistakes that a lot of people won't see, because you're not that large. And um, it's more, I guess, acceptable for you to make mistakes and then just try again. And the larger companies, they're not really open to making mistakes publicly, and they're not really open to, they want to serve this plus size sector because of the money, but a lot of them are not putting the money into the production and the research and improving fit. All of those things really matter. If you don't improve those things, then you're not really going to service the plus size community for that long.
We see that, I don't know how much you follow this, but in home sewing patterns, we see that there's a change happening right now. There are a couple of companies that focus specifically on plus size pattern design. One is Muna and Broad in Canada and New Zealand, and the other one is that I'm thinking of is Cashmere. But there are some other brands that are independent pattern designers who are really popular, and they have really felt the pressure of, I don't want to say pressure, but I want to say the real push from the consumers who really want to buy those patterns in their sizes, and they are trying to expand, but it's not straightforward. It's actually, I think, you can't just say, I'm going to take my 12 and just grade it up. You have to do a lot more than that. And I wanted to ask you, how do you teach your students that, and do they enjoy it? Do they like getting this education that's a little bit different from what they might have thought?
Oh, they absolutely enjoy it. A lot of them have told me that they have friends that are at other universities, and they design for a size six, and that's it. That's all they're working with. And I think that they really feel that they're special because they're learning more. They're getting more of um, a well-rounded experience from the university. So that's really exciting. Now, as far as the smaller pattern companies actually offering plus size, I think that that is amazing. Um, Cashmere, I believe I have a few of their patterns, and the great thing about them is that they really do focus on fit. And they also have, like I encourage my students to do, have multiple fit models. So you won't have a fit model in a size 6 and then try to grade it up to a size 20. That will not work. It absolutely will not work. So you may have 2 or 3 different fit models. You might have one that's a 6, you might have one that's a 12, and then you might have one that's a 20 if you offer above that, maybe up to a size 30, 32, or whatever your line produces. So um, that's just really, really important. I can't stress that enough, for people to have, or companies to have, multiple fit models. Grading is not like this magical thing that you can just do from a small size to a larger size. If you try to, I remember I was doing my research for my master's degree, and it was all about fit and improving fit for the average American woman. And when I was doing my research, the average American woman was a size 20. And depending on who you talk to, it may range from a size 14 to a size 20. But I kind of lost my train of thought.
On the grading, on your
Yes,
grading,
yes,
yeah.
yes, yes, yes. Sometimes I go off on a tangent, especially about fit, and then I'm like, okay, where did I stop
It's
at?
okay. We're
Okay.
we're with you on that. We do the same thing.
So about grading, I was doing my research, and I can't remember exactly who it was, but they talked about, it was around the time that Lane Bryant was starting off, and they talked about how they tried to grade from a small straight size to a larger size. And when they did that for a sleeve, they said something like the sleeve went all the way down to the ground, or something like that, where it's like, there's no way that a human being can fit this. You have to be able to have multiple fit sessions, multiple fit models, and maybe it's only 4 sizes up, or 3 sizes up, 3 sizes down that you can grade. And then you might want to look into getting another fit model for those other sizes.
That
Yes.
sounds, I think that is hard for the independent designers in many cases, because they are really working on a shoestring, and I'm sure they're not clearing a lot of profit over the development cost of their patterns. So I really, would like to give them a hand for the work that they do, and the ones who are stepping out and trying to expand their size range. I know it's a hard thing for them to do, but it's really worthwhile. And it seems to me that pattern buyers are really excited about that, and they like it because they feel like, they feel seen and appreciated. They feel like, I don't want to beg you to take my money. As you were saying, you don't want to have to go beg companies to make clothing in your size. You'd like to really put your money where people care about serving you.
Absolutely. But I was also thinking, um, in the plus community is a lot different than the straight size, like model community, or straight size fashion community, because a lot of people would be open to just trying some things out for you during trade. If you have a very small business and you have a community online, there will be people to raise their hand and say, okay, I fit those measurements, I will definitely come in and I can be your fit model. Are you able to trade for clothing, improve my wardrobe? There's a lot of different ways that small businesses can get what they need, because it's not always about money.
Exactly. And I know that there's a fairly active community of people who are really either volunteering or actually being paid to test the patterns through their different iterations to get the fit really right. So this is really reassuring to me, because it makes me see that these pattern designers are actually very interested and excited in producing a pattern that's going to work really well for their customers.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
wanted to go back to something that you were saying before about, being a small business, and it makes you nimble, but it also gives you a chance to make those quote mistakes, which are actually more learning experiences. Can you give us
Exactly.
an example of something for yourself where you made a quote mistake and it turned out to be actually a good thing, that you learned something and you were able to apply it to your business to improve the end result?
Right. A mistake that I've made as a business owner. Oh my gosh. It's funny
I'm
because I'm sure there's tons of them. that because small business owners, they make mistakes all the time, and like you said, it's always a learning experience. Um, well, okay, so I would say that this is not necessarily a mistake, but it's something that I changed my mind about later on. When I first started my clothing line, Ace Blakely, it was 2013. I had a museum exhibit for strictly plus size fashion. It was at the University of Penn Museum. And it was my first time debuting the clothes from Ace Blakely, and it was a huge hit. I had support from um, Full Figured Fashion Week, Gwen DeVoe, Plus Model Magazine. Just it was a lot of outpouring of support. And from there, I showed the Ace Blakely line at what was it? It was Philadelphia Fashion Week that I showed. And at Philadelphia Fashion Week, I had the awesome opportunity to meet Fern Mollis, who is the creator of New York Fashion Week. And when I showed that line, I had both straight and plus size in that line. And when I talked to her, she pulled me to the side and she said, "This is what I've been asking designers to do. You know, there is a market for this." And that was confirmation for me where I was like, okay, yes, I definitely have to continue to push through with this line. And from there, after talking to her, the conversation went more so toward instead of me including the smaller sizes in the line, focus on the larger sizes that were available in my line. So from there, I just continued plus size. I didn't add in the smaller sizes.
Okay.
And not that that's a mistake, but I even know as being a plus size woman that plus size women don't want that segregation. They don't want it to be just a line for plus sizes because they want to be able to go out and shop with their friends who are shopping at these places, but it's not like, you know, the plus sizes in the back and then straight sizes up at the front. They want to be included. They don't want it to be, you know, this is a plus size line. They want it to be, this is a line of beautiful clothes, and I want to incorporate that into my wardrobe. So now, once I reboot Ace Blakely, then it will be more inclusive to all sizes because I know that I can make an impact there, and I know that that's what the plus size consumer wants.
Well, I went on your website and saw the clothes in your Ace Blakely line, and I think it will be a hit with all the sizes. They're
Oh,
really
thank
nice.
you.
Do you want to give us an idea for our listeners what who your target market is, what kind of life they have, and maybe what your general aesthetic is?
Oh yeah. So Ace Blakely is a contemporary women's wear line. And I love texture in fabric. So I have a lot of texture, I have a lot of color. I'm not interested in designs that are boxy. So I like to show the curves. I like to have like what you call peekaboos. So areas that are exposed but also very classy. Um, I like to design pieces that you can wear every day. But I really also like to design pieces that you can go out with your girlfriends or go out to a wedding or anything and look completely flawless. So that's what the Ace Blakely brand is about. It's about being beautiful. It's about being comfortable, but also about showing your authentic self. Another thing that I like to tell my students when they're designing for plus size, because that's usually the question, what are you designing for plus size and how does it fit into the plus size market? Also, what's the tricks to designing for plus size? And I tell my students that it's your authentic style. Okay, it's your aesthetic. So me and also my colleagues, we try to encourage our students to design for their own design aesthetic, um, and not try to focus so much on their consumer being plus size because everybody's idea of like fit in well-fitting garments or even great design for plus size is going to be different. There are some people who believe that if they're designing for a straight size, they can design whatever they want. When they're designing for plus size, it needs to be a little bit more boxy. It needs to not show as much. But believe it or not, there are people who are plus size that want to show those things that you're designing. So if you have it in a straight size and it's showing off all of the curves, when you do plus size, have it show all of the curves. You know, if it's you're doing like some experimental types of designs for your straight size consumer, then make sure you're doing those same experimental designs for your plus size consumer. We see this a lot in the industry where there may be designers that are offering plus size, but their plus size offerings do not reflect what they do as a whole and what they have for their straight size consumer. So for me, I'm incorporating my own design aesthetic across the board and not modifying just because somebody may be in a fuller body.
So, yeah, we were, Carol and I were having a brief discussion beforehand, and we were talking about that stereotype that, you have to design, or these designs must be boxier or looser fitting or not fitted at all for someone who's plus size. And we were wondering how you um, address that. Do you find that the students also have that in their minds when they first start, when they come to you, when they're starting the class? Oh, I can't design the way I want to for someone who's plus size.
Well, initially, I don't think that the students really think about plus size. It's not that they don't want to do plus size, it's that it's never been in their awareness. And they don't know how hard it is to find plus size clothing because it's not in their awareness. They never experienced going into a store and not being able to find clothes that they like, or going online and not being able to find clothes that they like. They've never experienced that, and some of them, their parents haven't experienced it, so they haven't even really heard about it because it's just not in their awareness. So I don't think that they have a lot of preconceived notions about plus size. It's just that it's something that they never really thought about.
Well, when you teach them to do design, I know you do pattern making and also draping. Is draping really the creative aspect of this for them, or do they do original designs via flat pattern making too? I guess what I'm wondering is, if you're trying to make a dress and you're given a size 6 dress form or size 24 dress form, it seems to me that you're doing the same thing on them in a way, and so what you're doing is trying to make it look good on that shape and size, whatever it is you're making. Whereas with flat pattern, I think it's like, you're just kind of adding a few inches around the outside of the pattern piece edges, and you don't ever get a sense of what that's going to do once it's worn by someone.
Yeah.
So do they do most of their design on the form?
They do a lot of their design on the form. My sophomores are in pattern making right now, so they're in their second pattern making course. So they haven't really draped on the form yet, but they will next semester. And yeah, it's. I try not to make it like it's a big deal. I try not to make them making plus size a big deal because I heard this in an interview with Becca from Chromat. I don't know if you're familiar with her line, but she worked so hard on this presentation in this runway show, and she includes people with disabilities, she includes plus sizes, straight sizes. It's a very inclusive clothing line. But she said that she worked really hard on these designs, and she wanted that to pop out. And the next day, she got all of this press, but it wasn't about her designs. It was about, oh, look, she used plus size models. And yes, it was great for her to have press, but she was also like really excited about the designs that she did. But it was overshadowed with, oh, she makes plus sizes. And that was all people talked about. They didn't talk about the actual design of the clothes. They didn't talk about the aesthetic that she has. They didn't talk about any of that. So I don't want it to be. And then with Fashion Without Limits, like I said, it's not just plus size. It's different sizes, different shapes. So I want people to know that and know that it's not hard to do. And I think there is this notion that, oh, it's really hard to make plus size, which may stop some people from at least trying. Um, and if you tell people beforehand that anything is hard to do, they're not really going to try because it's like, oh, that's hard. Why would I even? I have a good thing going right now. Why would I even try that? But instead, if the conversation is, it's a bit different, um, but it's easy to adapt to. then maybe it's like, okay, well, I'll try it out.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch Project Runway, years ago they would do, they always had the standard sample size models, and then one challenge they'd bring in models who are, either real people or different sizes, more representative of actual people who might buy your clothing, and they would all have a tantrum because their model wasn't size 2. And now they've gone to, it's just the range of models they use is much bigger. And I think they shift around from designer to designer week by week. So everybody works with somebody different each time. And I think they've realized that it is really kind of terrible for them to say, oh, I don't want to work with that, that size model or that shape model, because that's just going to be, too hard for me. I don't know how to do it. But, you're setting up these students to be able to handle what they get, which is great.
Yeah, so if those designers didn't have that notion that it was going to be hard, then they would be okay with it. Or if they had a thought like, okay, the way that I design anything else, how about I design that for plus size with no edits, no changing, just doing it for a larger body. Now, if they approached it in that way, then they would be more successful.
Yeah.
So other than the grading issue that we talked about, is there a challenge that you have found that students do get stuck on, even after going through the thing saying this is, just like any other thing? Is there any one particular area where you would say it stops them for a minute until they figure out, or they talk to you about how to handle it, like more darts or
Yes.
seams, or something with seams? Yes, you've got something.
Yeah, I'm thinking because there hasn't been much, but my thought is I've had students say once they finish their pattern, this doesn't look right. You
Yeah.
know, it's like, no, this doesn't look like the patterns that I was designing before. And I try to encourage them to trust the process. If you draped it, then that's it. If your dart looks really long compared to another dart from another garment that you draped, it's okay. Trust that process because it is going to be different. It's going to look a little bit different. Your pattern pieces are going to be a lot wider. There's going to be a difference in how they appear. So, yeah, I think that's one thing that the students get stumped a little bit about. Like, this can't be right because my patterns don't usually look like this. Why does it look like this? And it's like trust the process. It'll be fine.
Oh yeah, we hear that from Threads readers who are altering patterns to fit, and they may be
Oh
extra full
yeah.
busted or something, and they do the entire adjustment so that it actually fits their body. Maybe they try it on a muslin and it works okay, and then they take it apart, lay it down, and say, "Oh, that can't possibly be right. My armhole can't look like that. I better fix it back to something that looks like a real pattern." Which is that
Yeah.
sort of standard shapeless dress form size pattern, and then of course you've undone all your work. So it's really important. We're constantly, I mean, I'm always going on about this, like, understand that your body doesn't look like a dress form. Your pattern won't look like a standard pattern. That's just how it's going to come out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the
I've
end
also
result will be beautiful. That's the thing. You have to
It will be. You
just
have to
spend just,
trust it.
Yeah.
right.
You have to trust it.
We are coming down to the last few minutes, but ChaCha, I wanted to ask you just quickly about your social cafe that you used to have in Philadelphia. That's no longer, I think, but are you thinking about trying to revive that?
Oh my God, it's so weird when people say you used to or there was a social cafe because I'm like, oh, that was my baby. I
Oh,
love the social
I'm
cafe
so
so
sorry.
much. It was such a great outlet for me, but not just me, so many other women who came together to make clothes and to start clothing lines. And it was just amazing. It was an amazing experience. And uh, we were open from 2018 to just a few months after COVID hit.
Mm.
And when COVID hit, that's when sewing was always important to me, but that's when everyone else realized how important sewing was when they needed masks.
Hmm.
And of course, everybody looked to us because it's like, okay, you have this huge sewing space. It was 2,800 square feet
Wow, that's
of
great.
of just sewing. Oh, it was beautiful. Um, of just sewing space and being creative and not having to worry about your, the things that you have going on at home, not worrying about being distracted because everybody that was there was working and also encouraging other people to do work and even better work. But once COVID hit, it was we were bombarded with orders for masks. I made thousands of masks myself. My sewing community, which is over 900 members on our Facebook page, Sewing with ChaCha Nicole, if anybody's interested. But we were like overwhelmed, completely overwhelmed with orders. And it's not like the people who were there were, just selling masks. We were giving masks away to rehabilitation centers and hospitals and homeless shelters. And it was a lot of work and it was really overwhelming. And I think it was June um, when I had all of these scraps left over from making the mask, and it was in a huge contractor bag. And I'm like, I can't throw this away. I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I threw all of these fabric scraps away. So I decided to make pillows for the homeless. So with fabric scraps, if you want to make a stuffing, then you need to cut down the fabric scraps. I had an electric rotary cutter, and my plan was to shred everything up, put it inside of pillows, and then donate it. And when I was using the electric rotary cutter, I was not paying attention. I also had my gloves sitting right next to me. I did not put those on, and I ended up cutting off the top of my thumb, my left thumb. From there, after already being completely overwhelmed by the mask and the demand and just everything with COVID, I was like, this is it. That's the day that I knew, okay, I have to close down. I have to stop. This is it. I was overworking myself. I wasn't sleeping. My whole world consists of making masks, and I don't know if you ladies had to make masks during the pandemic, or if your friends and family were like, I know this is not what you usually do, but can you make some masks? It was like completely overwhelming. And I wasn't essential business, so I couldn't have people in the space. So it's just me. My mom helped me out when she wasn't at work because they cut hours for people. So she's an ultrasound tech, so she was there and printing out orders for me and things like that. But it was me in this space, not sleeping, working really hard, and I just realized at that moment that I could no longer do that. But on the bright side, when I started my Syracuse University position, the director of VPA, which is Visual and Performing Arts, she was really excited about the social cafe and is very willing to help me establish the social cafe or something similar in Syracuse, which I am super excited about.
That's great.
But I don't think that it'll be a space where it's just fashion design. I'm thinking more so a creative space, so creative content creation, or have a room for sewing, have a room for if people want to have small fashion shows or art exhibits or things like that. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Oh, I'm so happy to
awesome.
hear that you
Yeah.
are that you're looking forward to this because, I realized that the pandemic wasn't great for any kind of business. I would say pretty much it did a lot of people in, and it sounds like you really, gave it your all. But yeah, now you might have another version of this that's even bigger and better where you are.
Yes, I'm excited about that. I actually just applied for a PhD program, so I don't think, yeah, so I don't think that it will be happening like, this year or next year, but maybe in the next, 2 years or so. I'll be
Fingers
able to have
crossed.
fingers crossed. I'll be able to have some free time to do that because that's where my passion is.
Well, you
Oh,
keep
that's
us
awesome.
posted. You must keep
Yes.
us
Oh, I
posted on
sure
what
will.
happens, and also about everything that goes on with your PhD and all your work. We're really interested in what you're doing, and
Yes.
Thank
and
you.
it was so good to talk to you and hear
Yes.
about what you're doing to help students reform or improve the fashion industry so that it's more inclusive for everyone.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun. I feel
Oh,
like I can just go on and on, but I won't.
oh,
Oh, we love hearing from
we
you.
would too.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Yes, thank you, ChaCha.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Follow Threads on social media and visit threadsmagazine.com to view show notes for this episode. While you're on the site, check out Threads Insider, our online membership with exclusive access to expert sewing techniques. Until next time, keep on sewing with Threads.